There we go. Morning, everybody. Hope you're having a good day. I hope the weather's a bit better than it is here. Miserable and grey and wet, but I guess that's probably covering most of the UK. It seems to have been raining for about 3 months solid, I think, but hey ho. But welcome to our CIPP event for the National Apprenticeship Week. We're delighted to have the opportunity to talk to you about our experiences. I'm Mark Bremner. I'm CEO of MBKB Training. We deliver a lot of apprenticeships, and particularly Payroll is one of our flagship programs. And I'm delighted that I'm joined by Sam Mann. So I'll let you do your full introduction, Sam. So do you want to get us started and tell us a little bit about yourself and your organisation?
Oh, that's very kind of you. Thank you, Mark. And it's great to be here celebrating National Apprenticeship Week. Yes, I'm Sam Mann, and I am the payroll team manager here at the payroll service line for Armstrong Watson. Now, Armstrong Watson, we have 19 offices across the north of the UK, north of England and into Scotland, and we have just over 800 staff. At the moment, because we are very much a committed training organisation, and we have just over 160 trainees going through various programmes at this very moment in time, and our very talented talent acquisition team. Sorry, the use of the word talent there was way too much. But they are currently recruiting 74, looking to recruit another 74 trainees. So as an organisation, we are extremely committed to bringing on the next generation of talent into the industry. As an accounting organisation, we provide a whole range of accounting, audit and assurance and tax services, as well as cybersecurity services. Who knew? But for payroll, we are relatively new to payroll apprenticeships within the organisation. In the past, we've been a bit more traditional with the way in which we brought on talent. But I know you're going to ask me what was the catalyst to why we started down the route of supporting payroll apprenticeships. And well, there were two reasons really. The first was, why wouldn't we, as we sit within Armstrong Watson, given Armstrong Watson's commitment to training and education, but COVID. I know it's 6 years on. Sam stopped banging on about COVID, but COVID had a massive impact on the payroll industry. And following, as we moved out of COVID, we saw a lot of talent exiting the payroll profession. Quite frankly, the pressure that was on the payroll industry during that time was immense. So we saw a lot of more mature, more experienced staff exiting the payroll industry. But we also, because during COVID, a lot of us I've worked from home since 2003, so it was nothing unusual for me. But a lot of instead of it being thousands of people working from home, it became millions of people working from home. And so colleagues across the country came out of COVID thinking, actually, I've got options. Okay, I don't just have to turn up at the office Monday to Friday, and I have options. And so there was a lot of movement in the industry, and we were affected by that as much as anybody else. So COVID gave us that starter for 10, if you will, as to kind of looking around, how can we bring new talent into the business and grow that talent? And the payroll apprenticeship was an obvious direction of travel for us.
That's excellent. That's really good to hear. I think you're right. I mean, COVID, yes, a while ago, but it's still very fresh in everybody's memories, I think. And you're right, it certainly did affect the payroll departments probably more than most, in all honesty. And yeah, we sort of found that as well, to be brutally honest with you. So it was good.
Yeah. Now I've got a question for you, if you don't mind, Mark. From MBKB's perspective, what's driving the growing interest in payroll apprenticeships amongst employers right now?
Okay, I think it's I think they've gained more recognition and more kudos over certainly the last 5 or 6 years. And I think you're right that COVID, I think, helped to some way because of the switch to online working. As an organization, that's something that we've always done. I mean, we were doing that from sort of 2018, 2017, actually. So it wasn't a forced switch for us. It was always something that we wanted to do. So when COVID hit and we appreciated the pressures on the payroll teams up and down the country, we put a lot of support in regarding this is furlough. This is what it looks like. This is the training. Because, we heard the word, we didn't really know what it was. And we knew that a lot of organizations needed support. So I think it's a combination of the training providers being a little bit more involved in supporting payroll organizations for the good of the UK economy at that time.
Yeah.
And I think, to be brutally honest with you, our relationship, and I know, I'm sure it's true with other training providers as well, with the CIPP has grown a lot. So, they've done, I think, a fantastic job. It's great that the IPP is the endpoint assessment organisation of choice for payroll, because it's only right that they control the entrance into the sector. And as you said at the start, building that future talent. So I guess from our point of view, it's always been a flagship program of ours. We've done a lot of work raising profiles, newsletters and those sort of things, but to be able to work in partnership fully with IPP and CIPP has no doubt helped. And I think their endorsement of it has, the payroll sector going, actually, this is, it's a solid opportunity.
Yeah.
But it was new, it was new in 2018, and it takes a while for anything to get going, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think so.
No, totally agree with that.
So yeah, thanks for that. Sam, appreciate it. So, I suppose then, obviously, you've said you've got some payroll apprentices. We've spoke about the benefits of online stuff, I think, and support. But what sort of benefits do you think you've seen to the organisation since you've brought payroll apprentices in?
Well, fresh talent for a start. We have, and I don't hesitate to use that word, talent, because that's it's certainly what I see when I look at our current apprentices, and we've got 4 at the moment at various stages going through the learning pathway. But we also have, we have 6 at the moment, past apprentices working within operationals, the operational team and onboarding. We did have 7. Hannah went onwards and upwards, and we were, for personal reasons, and we were pleased for her, for that, for that benefit. And again, it blows my mind as someone who came into the industry over 45 years ago, a long time ago, and I kind of fell into payroll, as so many people do. For me to sit on an interview panel and say to somebody, why do you want to work in payroll? And they have an answer that just blows me away. That is wonderful to see. And as I say, we have now 6 past apprentices who've all gone through and had amazing results. And now we've got 4 going through, and they're bringing fresh perspective to the organisation. They are bringing fresh talent and enthusiasm, and they're not just bums on seats. They are real people bringing real talent to the team. So the benefits are enormous. So
that's excellent. Have you found that with them being an apprentice, because of the support that you're getting from different training providers, that the productivity is evident earlier in their induction and starting with you?
Well, that's interesting. We're still in the early days with payroll apprentices. It's I know 6 years sounds like a long time, but it's still early, and we're learning all the time. And we have taken slightly different approaches as each cohort have come through, just to see what works. One thing we have learned is it has to work for the student. If it doesn't work for the student, then it's not going to work for us. And we at Armstrong Watson have a very detailed induction plan for any new starter into the business, whether they be an experienced professional or whether they're just starting as an apprentice or a graduate. So we have a certain amount of well-established protocols in terms of what we have to cover in the first month of being at Armstrong Watson, and indeed the first 100 days. So we have a 100-day plan for all new starters. Now, what I have what we have learned is that actually for the apprentices joining us, let's give them at least a month to deal with all of the things that everybody has to deal with when joining Armstrong Watson, getting to know their
Yep.
computer, getting to know the wide range of technology that exists for, in Armstrong Watson. And we're no different from any other organisation at that level. Making sure that they have worked through all of the policies and procedures that are essential to any accounting business, and being assessed on their knowledge on that. So we allow for them to get through that. And then I seek to have them joining MBKB as soon as possible. If for no other reason, I don't want them to miss that valuable learning opportunity that they could log with MBKB. You learn a lot in your first 3 months here at Armstrong Watson, and all of that counts when studying an apprenticeship. So I want to make sure that it sounds a bit brutal really, but just to make sure that we get the most out of it, because, and also the students do, because once they've learned it, they've learned it. They can't learn it again. They could revise on it, but they can't necessarily have that same learning experience again. So I've forgotten what you asked me, but no, carry on.
No, it's all good. I think it's, you've given a lot of really good perspective there. And I think you're right. The induction and the onboarding is paramount to anybody, not just starting an apprenticeship, but starting any role.
Yeah.
And, well, you said it's got to work for the individual. That's absolutely right. And also, I think it has to work for the employer. And as you've mentioned about this sort of induction with us, I think it's the successful apprenticeships are when it's a three-way equal partnership, and that's exactly what it needs to be. And then you can build and change exactly whatever you need, and look at your future pipeline of talent. Ultimately, that's what we're talking about. So I suppose, I know you said I've seen a question pop up as well in the chat, and we will get to questions at the end, so we'll go back and answer that one. So can I ask you, did you recruit new talent for the apprenticeship? Did you upskill existing employees, or was it both?
Back at the very beginning, and as I say, we've learned a lot of lessons since the very beginning. Again, we're coming out of COVID, and I know it. I keep harping on about it, but the impact really was that significant. So anyone listening to this webinar who was around back in 2000, they will know what I'm talking about. Anyone brand new to the profession will be thinking, what on earth is she talking about? But that impact was so significant. We had employees who had been in the team for many a long year. They were experienced, they were qualified, and then they found another job. They were headhunted and off they went, which was great for them. That's absolutely fine. They go with our blessing, but that left a big hole for the team to fill. So when we decided that maybe dipping our toes in the apprenticeship program was the right way for us to go, we didn't want existing team members who hadn't got a qualification, because historically we were very traditional. There would be internal training in the team, and then when each individual team member was ready to go on to further further professional qualifications, then they would be supported through the CIPP route. So historically the diploma, then the FD, and now of course we have the new diploma as well. So that was our traditional approach, which is actually quite a long process, and that was the talent we were losing. So that was the gap that needed to be filled. So what we didn't want was existing staff who hadn't yet reached that qualification stage to feel that they were being overlooked. So they had an opportunity as well as bringing in new talent to the team, who was starting afresh, totally blank page, to take on the payroll function in all of its joyful detail. So everybody got a chance. As you might imagine, there were lessons to be learned from that approach, because, and again, I know we will discuss this in slightly more detail, but the off-the-job hours is a very specific requirement for the apprentice. Now, when you've got someone coming in new, you can plan for that. But if you've already got somebody who's working full-time, and they
Yeah.
are now required to actually start to work for four-fifths of their week and dedicate a fifth of their week to learning, which can be in work, it can be with work activities, but it can also be with structured study. That has a big impact on the team, bearing in mind we already had big gaps. So,
Yeah.
so there were lessons learned from that. The opportunity is still there for existing team members who haven't gone down an individual qualification route. But at the moment, what we tend to do is recruit a maximum of 2 new students each year so that the team can support them fully. There is that old proverb that it takes a village to raise a child, and it's exactly the same, I think,
Yeah.
for an apprentice. It's a whole team approach to helping them and enabling them to complete successfully their apprenticeship.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely right. And I think, you've hit the nail on the head there, not only with the support all around them, 360 degrees, but also there's a lot of positives about apprenticeships, but then there's some challenges as well. And I think, that leads us really nice into our next sort of section of chat, which is about, costs, funding, and sort of decision making. So would you be able to share any concerns you had around cost or funding before starting apprenticeship?
Well, to be totally brutally frank, I wasn't here when that first decision was made, but
Okay.
with the benefit of knowing how Armstrong Watson works, we are a levy paying employer, as you might
Yep.
imagine, with 160 trainees at the moment, and being totally committed to being a training organisation. We fully utilise our apprenticeship levy funding and have healthy co-investment levels as well. So given that we within the payroll service line now have a target of a maximum of no more than 2 apprentices every year, the actual
Okay.
physical cost to us as an organisation is a mere drop in the ocean.
Okay.
So at that level, the cost to us wasn't the biggest concern. The critical factor for us was bringing in new talent and bringing them on in the best possible way. So
That's good to know.
yeah, to say money was no object would be wrong, but as I say, against the backdrop of Armstrong Watson's training program, we were a mere drop in the ocean.
That's always good to know. And I think, obviously with the apprenticeship levy funding, it helps, doesn't it? Because it's there and, it's not a big upfront cost. So,
Yeah,
excellent.
no, indeed. And I think I have a question for you now, Mark.
Oh,
We've
thank
just
you.
started, sorry, I'm going to give you a chance to talk now. We've just started working with MBKB since December 2024. But how do you support new employers?
Thanks, Sam. I think for us, it's all about finding out exactly what it is the employer needs and the challenges that they've got, what they're looking for. As we've discussed already throughout, it's that three-way partnership. So as an organization, we're very interested in building a long-term relationship with employers. We're not interested in bums on seats. We're not interested in particularly high volume of apprentices. We want to have conversations with each company and say, look, this is how you work and what we can offer. Is this a benefit to you at the moment? Great. If it is, we'll work with you. If it's not, that's fine. You've got our details and you can get in touch. So it starts with a very soft approach. I've been in and around apprentices since 1998, actually. So when I was clearly 3 years old, okay, that might not be quite that true, but I don't really, age is a funny thing.
Good try there,
But
Mark.
I know, thanks. I think ultimately, because of that, I've been through an apprenticeship myself. I did a management one back in 1998, and there was positives and there was negatives, and I've learned those experiences. And over the sort of 10 years that MBKB's been delivering apprenticeships, we've learned a lot. And as you said, it's constantly growing and moving. So for us, the starting point is, where are you as an organization? What do you want to get to? Then is it existing team members that you want to work with? And if so, let's plan that off the job to cause minimum disruption. Is it new apprentices you're looking to bring in which case we've got a recruitment team so we can take that whole process off you and you can just filter the final top applicants, if you like, and select from there. And then the other thing is we'll look at what challenges you may have. So with the way we deliver the apprenticeships is completely flexible. And an example I always give, we work with a very large local authority, and they said we're in a bit of a mess because our pensions guru was retiring, has actually gone off long-term sick, and we've got no one that knows about pensions. Can you help us? And we were like, well, yeah, because your apprentices can switch to the pensions units and do those first. And they're like, oh, I thought we had to do module 1 first. No, you can do the modules in any order to suit you. There's certain things that need to be done in a sequential order to make sense, but for the most part it's fully flexible. So for us it's about that conversation. What is it you need, and let's build it around you and your apprentice. And I think that's worked quite well over the years, to be honest.
Yeah. Yes, and I think the current students are benefiting from that flexibility because they've all started at slightly different times. We had Lucia and Maddie start the learning pathway back in December 2024, and then Jenny came on board in February, so she started on her learning pathway in March. Because they were quite close together, but not totally at the same time. Jenny joined with Lucia and Maddie at the stage they were at, but she will have that opportunity to pick up any modules she missed earlier in that journey. And also there is that extension opportunity as well. So because you deliver level 5, if we have students, which we do have at the moment, who really want to extend themselves and learn something that actually isn't in their established level 3 learning pathway, then they have that opportunity as well to take on additional learning opportunities, which I think is invaluable, because they're getting the benefit almost of 2 levels. 2 levels there. We wouldn't push that on anyone, but if they're wanting to push themselves and they have the capacity to do that, then Laura, their tutor, I mean, I could just wax lyrical about Laura and Catherine for the entire half hour, but I won't. But Laura is fabulous with them. In terms of giving them that extra opportunity, and any self-study modules that they want to do over and above the tasks that come with the monthly training and learning sessions. So
that sounds excellent, and thank you for that. I'll be sure to pass that on to both of them.
Yeah,
I'm
please
sure they'll
do.
be delighted to be called out. So I it seems very evident that there's a good return on investment, the way you're sort of waxing lyrical about their development, the opportunities, and as I said, because it's tailored. So I think that's quite evident, isn't it, that the flexi approach and utilizing levy funding does sort of maximize that. I think if we move on to the next section we're going to talk about, which is the role of the training provider. Obviously we're delighted to have the opportunity to work with you, and of course we've a great relationship with IPP and CIPP as well, and I think it's only fair, for transparency, there's other training providers out there, people can find that, and it's like when you work with any company, do your research and see what's best for you. But I suppose I'm going to be a little bit self-centered around MBKB for May for a moment, and I suppose test out our theory as well, or what I've just said. So how did you find the initial setup phase with us when you started your apprenticeship?
Yeah, no, absolutely. The setup phase couldn't be easier, if I'm being entirely frank. We meet with Jim Oliver, who business support, I think his job title is, and he breaks down the whole framework of the apprenticeship and how it's going to work. The importance, of course, of having those level 2 prior achievements in English and maths, and the support that will be available to any apprentices who don't have that level 2 already. So he takes us through what's going to happen. So yes, there's total flexibility, and that's made very clear from the start. But there is a clear framework as well. So for people who want to be flexible, that's great. For people who need a framework, a structured framework to work, then that's great as well. And Jim makes that very clear. He also makes clear who our tutor is going to be from the start. Now, Catherine had a delightful event, but much earlier than expected. So
Yes.
went off on maternity leave. So Lucia and Maddie said hello to Catherine, and then the next time they met with their tutor, it was Laura. So, but you know, in the meantime, Catherine had a delightful event, and she's back with the team. I'm so pleased to see. So then, of course, we met with Laura, their tutor. Laura, of course, meets with them on a monthly basis. Now, they have their monthly structure for a training and learning session for each month. Now, what we're going to see, particularly for Jenny, because she joined Maddie and Lucia at a later stage, she might join with another tutor to cover those modules that she's missed. So that we have the reassurance of knowing that there are a whole team of tutors who are delivering training and learning sessions each month. So even if the date doesn't work for example, then the students can slot into another session. And then, of course, they have their monthly one-to-ones with the tutor. The tutor is available throughout the week, and that is emphasised at every review. If you've got any questions, any concerns, you reach out, and I will come back to you. So that is, I think, really reassuring for the students. It's very reassuring for me. I'm a bit of a control freak, if I'm being entirely honest, but don't tell anyone. And so I get a monthly report from Laura on how the off-the-job hours are looking. Okay, it would be so much easier at one level if everybody just went to college one day a week. You could go, right, that ticks that box. Hopefully they're learning at college. But of course, when it's remote self-study learning, then we meet on a weekly basis with the students, or I meet on a weekly basis with the students to plan the week ahead, to see what challenges they've got, what potential training opportunities within the workplace that they've got. But as I say, the support is second to none. I can't say fair. I sound as if I'm just kind of gushing, and I don't mean to gush, but that's all as I say, we've had lessons over the years, and the experience that we're having now is superb. So.
That's great to hear. I will generally pass it on. And yes, you're right. I suppose it's a demonstration of real life as well. That it was one tutor, and then due to unforeseen circumstances, very quickly another tutor. But I'm glad to hear that we handled that transition well. So that was good. Do you find, as the manager, then, that you're supported as well by the tutor?
Oh yes, absolutely. If I've got any questions, whether it be about off-the-job hours or any aspect, or indeed of the studies that the team are undertaking, or how much time is left, for example. I mean, there was a couple of emails that landed for Maddie and Lucia that suggested their learning pathway finished at the 31st of March, which had them in a bit of a panic. But of course, it was based on their original start date with Armstrong Watson, not the date they actually started on their learning pathway. So, Laura helped us resolve that query. Plus Alan, who sits in our learning and development team, and he's our gov.uk genius when it comes to the apprenticeship service. So he helped us as well, kind of get to the bottom of that. But yes, no, both Laura and Catherine have just been, whatever questions you have, no question is too challenging for them. And Jim, of course, made very clear right from the start, any questions, any concerns, come back to me. So you can't say fairer than that.
No, that's always great to hear. Appreciate that. So thank you very much. I suppose I'll one more question, and then we'll just go to the last bit of sort of advice and key takeaways. And what would you say to employers if they're worried about admin time or commitment to apprenticeships?
Firstly, I would say don't worry, plan ahead. That's probably one of the biggest lessons we've had to learn is the importance of having that very clear framework and plan for how you are going to support the apprentices as they come into the team. Now, obviously, one of my key roles is to support the apprentices, but on a day-to-day basis, they sit within other teams. So they have buddies who help them and support them, and having that support. So identifying of your existing team who has the skills or the interest in supporting the next generation of talent. So I think you have to have that buy-in from your team. So make a plan, but worry gets you know. I'm speaking as a, I'm a professional worrier, so I know it does me no good whatsoever. So the important thing when looking to take on an apprentice or even consider an apprentice is do your homework, but be clear on what it is you are looking to achieve. If you are just thinking I'm going to have an extra bum on seats 5 days a week, then maybe apprenticeships are not for you. You need to be aware that there is time that the student needs for their benefit. They're not just there to kind of add another pair of hands. Yes, in the long term they will do. With the right support at the right stage, they will be an absolute star for your team. And we're seeing that already with former apprentices who are going on. They're wanting to progress. They're wanting to work their way through the hierarchy that is available to them. And I couldn't be more delighted to see that when you know that you started with somebody who was a blank canvas, and now they are experienced payroll professionals who want to go on in their career. So that's can't say fairer than that, really. So, but don't worry.
That is
Worrying gets you nowhere.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a good lesson for life in a whole, isn't it? As individuals, we worry and fret about too much, and it's rarely as bad in real life as it is in our heads. So, that's a good point. I'm going to ask you one last question, if I may, Sam. And that is there anything you wish you would have known before starting an apprenticeship?
A lot of things, if I'm honest. But I think probably the biggest thing is having a better understanding of the off-the-job hours and what constituted off-the-job hours. I think because I came from a generation where day release was common. I did AAT as my first qualification. We went to college for 1 day a week. So had that been an apprenticeship, that 1 day a week in college would have been would have ticked the box for those off-the-job hours. When it's remote study, it's a little bit different. It's and helping the students get into a good routine and a good discipline of recording all of their off-the-job hours. I mean, MBKB use the ALI acronym. What activity have you had? What learning did you do? And what impact is this going to have in the future? i.e., what do I know now that I didn't know before? And that can happen every day of the week. The one constant in payroll is change. So we are always learning in payroll. As I say, after a few years in payroll, I'm still learning every week. There isn't a week goes by. So I know for a fact that students who are coming to payroll for the first time, even by choice, are going to be learning every day. And it's just getting into that discipline, particularly if they want to go on and develop a professional career in payroll. That logging of CPD hours is all important. And so it's a good discipline to get into. So having a better understanding of the off-the-job hours, I think, is probably my one go-to in terms. So getting my head around that is one of the biggest things for me anyway. And I think if you don't mind, Mark, I've got one question for you, one final question. From MBKB's perspective, what do you find are the most common misconceptions that employers make about any apprenticeship, but particularly a payroll apprenticeship?
That's a good question. I guess there's a couple. General misconceptions about apprenticeships that we're doing a reasonable job of smashing the myth. that it's for youngsters and that it's an entry qualification. It's not. Yeah, I would suggest 75 to 80% of the apprentices we work with are mature, in role, have been for several years, and want to get that wraparound qualification. And because of the way an apprenticeship works, with a skills analysis at the beginning, you can discount the program down by up to 40% in terms of time and cost. So for somebody that's experienced in certain areas, they can save quite a bit of time on the program. So I think, yeah, apprentices are for kids and starters is probably the biggest myth. And I think, interestingly, the off the job one as well, it's day release. No, it's not day release. It's very different. There's a,
Yeah.
I suppose the positive to it is, instead of day release, it can be spread throughout the
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
And as you've said, we're particularly in payroll more so than any other sector. You're always learning and developing each time. So even if you're just Googling or you're attending a HMRC webinar on tax code changes, all those sorts of things count. So it's the misconception that you're losing them for a day a week. You're not. You're just helping them train in certain areas that will benefit you. So probably no. So fabulous.
No, absolutely.
Well, Sam,
Excellent.
it's been great to talk to you. And I'm not going to let you go just yet, if that's okay. If I can keep you for a few more moments. But I think in terms of everybody that's on board, we've had. It's been great to hear about your experience across apprenticeships in payroll, particularly over the last 6 years or so. And I think for the audience, Sam and I have shared our experience from a training provider and an employer perspective, and we know that every organisation is different, different challenges, different ideas, and it would be great if any of you have got any sort of questions, anything you'd like to ask. I know there was one on the chat, so I'll blow my screen up and open that chat up. But if anybody's got any questions they'd like to ask, feel free to jump in and do that.
Yeah, I think Jermoy has asked a question.
Let's have a look. Is that in the chat? Let me open that up. My internet's very slow.
Yeah. Morning, Jermoy. That's an excellent question. He's asked, would you mind sharing an amazing example answer to the interview question, why do you want to work in payroll? Okay. I've heard several bad answers. I've probably given a really bad answer myself in my, I don't interview very well. But last year when we were recruiting for 2 students in the Newcastle office, well, actually, it was just one place at that point because Jenny had already joined us. Travis sat in the seat in front of us. Now, Travis gave it, I mean, we've had a number. Sophie, she's a past apprentice, but she gave a masterclass in how to interview. But Travis had helped his granddad once. Well, a couple of times. His granddad worked in the bookies, and he'd helped him a couple of times with his weekly payroll. He did use Saged, and from that, he discovered that actually that seemed really a really interesting calculation process. It appealed to him. Now, was that the perfect answer? It certainly appealed to me. Being a past Sage user, I liked that answer. From my perspective, I'd like to hear, I've heard it's a good mix between HR and accountancy. I like working with numbers, but I also like working with payroll. And I think payroll gives us that opportunity. It also gives us an opportunity to branch out in a lot of different directions, including technology. But I don't know how that sounds to you, but that worked for me. That ticked a box when Travis said that last year.
That sounds great to me, and it's always interesting conversations where people say, well, where does payroll sit? Does it sit in HR? Does it sit in accounts? And the answer is it doesn't sit in either. No, it's as important as both and as different as both. So yeah, absolutely. We've got a question from Natalie. So will there be a level 4 qualification available, as it seemed to jump from 3 to 5? The honest answer to that is no, not as an apprenticeship. They often do that with apprenticeships. There's 3s and 5s. That in management, it's the same. In HR, it's the same as well. There isn't a 4. I do know it would be very remiss of me not to point out there is a CIPP qualification at level 4, which can fit very nicely between the two apprenticeships. So, you know, that's an option there. I don't know why the government don't do them at every level, but they don't. But the level 3 gives you that real good payroll administrator level. And obviously the level 5 is when you're talking about management. So it's more complex challenges within payroll itself. And you're expected at that point to be helping others and working with the level 3 people. So yeah. Fabulous. So I don't know if there's any more. I think we've done an exceptional job on timing.
I was going to say, that's unusual. Anyone who knows me knows I always overrun. So the fact that we finished dead on time is quite impressive.
Me too as well, to be fair. So me too as well. So excellent. Well, if nobody has, if there's no more questions or anything, I'll just close by saying that we really appreciate. I'll shut up and let you speak as well, Sam, to close your bit. But I really appreciate you taking time out to come and listen to Sam and I talk this morning. It's been really good to see so many of you turn up. Hopefully, we've inspired you a little bit with apprenticeships. From a very selfish point of view, MBKB, we'd love the opportunity to work with you. But I would genuinely point out there's other training providers out there, and you can do your research, find the one that's best for you, and work with them. It's about giving the youngsters the opportunity. So I'll shut up there. Sam, do you want to close it out?
See people dropping out. Thank you for your thanks, everybody. It's great that you've been here. Yes, I thank you for inviting me. I don't know how you did say something at the beginning there, and I got so distracted with everyone saying thank you. I missed what I was going to say, but it doesn't matter. I've really enjoyed being here, and I hope that we have inspired people to explore apprentices for them if it isn't something that they've explored previously. There are lessons to be learned. I'm on LinkedIn, so if you want to know some of those lessons, because I don't think it's appropriate to talk about them too publicly, please connect with me on LinkedIn, and we can have a chat. That's not a problem.
Absolutely.
But we have learned a lot of lessons over the last few years, and are delighted with our experience with MBKB. And I will stop gushing now. Okay.
That's very kind of you. Thank you, Sam. And I'm on LinkedIn as well. So if anybody would like to connect with me, so I will end the event there. And thank you all for your time. Have a great rest of the week. Have a great National Apprenticeship Week. And Sam, I look forward to continuing our relationship. Yep. And we'll speak soon.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Excuse me.